thank you everyone for taking the time to also attend this short presentation. I very much hope you enjoyed the movie, the quite long version. We won't be too long with the presentation, and then after it shouldn't take longer than 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes we can actually go straight to the Q&A session. So yes, let's discuss about dreams and if they can be considered as downloadable media. So I will shortly start with key takeaways from the movie and then discuss if dreams are downloadable. And then I will quickly touch upon dreams in virtual reality, and I will mention a project that we did at the UCLA a couple of years ago already. And I will just conclude with one of the recent projects that are going on with Stanford University Press and with the collaboration of with Kelly Bulkley, who's basically a leading dream researcher in this field. So I think it's reasonable to start with the quote from the movie. It's impossible to rescue a man, right? Lost in the labyrinths of his own soul. So this is kind of, let's say, a guiding principle for this short presentation, and at the same time should kind of be the principle, the guiding principle of our Q&A as well, just to keep that in mind. So let's first briefly touch upon the fact of having a dream or seeing a dream, right? So in the movie, we can see that clearly we're talking about two different realms, right? And dreaming life and waking life are somehow divided, but at the same time, they are kind of interconnected. So where exactly the problem occurs, right? The problem occurs when dreams become observable data, right? And the protagonists kind of loses his and her first person perspective, right? So the main trick of the dream is usually that it's a personal subjective experience, right? And we are not used of the fact that we can actually see dreams or even someone else's dream. So what happens, since the dreams are kind of considered and experienced as a from the first person perspective, we can clearly see that it leads to some sort of split of personality, or even worse, when Sam Farber says, when he's wandering through the desert, he says, split from myself. And even more paradoxically, like he's observing this and saying, I am split from myself. So dreams are basically first person experience, right? So this can also lead us to the next kind of ontological question. Are dreams truly ours? Typical dreams, such as being chased or flying or falling, or failing the exam, basically indicate that there are some universal patterns in, let's say, collective dreaming, right? So this kind of brings us to the next question. If seeing someone's dreams, we can see it, but we don't basically feel it. We cannot perceive, or we cannot experience the way, the mood or the emotional layer of the dreamer. So this is kind of what in the movie we can actually see that, yes, it is possible in the movie, of course, to see through someone else's eyes, but can we experience the same mood, the same emotion? That is a very, let's say, old philosophical question that is deeply rooted also in consciousness studies. So let's first say that dreams are multimodal, right? The visual aspect of dreams, of course, is prevailing, but there are also other layers that are also very, very important. So visual component is just one layer in dream experience. And as I mentioned before, subjective experience is a dimension where words and images, in a way, cannot do justice, right, to the experience. And this kind of reminds me, usually when we discuss about subjective experience of dreaming. And, you know, when we, for example, say or tell our dreams to someone, we can clearly see that language, it's not the best way to convey, you know, our thoughts and emotions when it comes to dreaming. So I don't know if any of you have heard of this really interesting paper, but it in philosophical circles has been, you know, quite widely spread. It's called What It's Like to Be a Bat, and it has a really this interesting title that actually says it all, right? So how it's like to be a bat or any other animal equals to how it's like to be you, a dreamer, or someone else that dreams a particular dream. It's really impossible to see into your own subjective experience. We're always coming from the third person perspective, which is basically a guiding principle of science as such. And this experience is also called qualia. So it's something that I can experience, or any of you can experience, but I cannot have a direct insight or direct inspection of your own experience or any kind of mood or emotion that you're going through. So even to let's say to think a bit little further, probably the only way to experience someone's mood or state of mind or being would be empathy, right? So at this point, there is no technology that could do that for us or instead of us. But still, right, we are still under this very interesting influence of the movie, and we would like to know, are dreams downloadable? So clearly the subjective experience isn't, but are dreams downloadable? Can we kind of divide them? Can we break them down into different components and play with that? So on the left, you can see the brain waves, right? And these are the famous gamma waves, are the waves that are usually active during deep meditation or dreams. But again, right, we are looking at the brain waves. We are not looking at the content of the dream. We are looking at the, let's say, a process. But again, we would like to dig deeper. We would like to know, right? Because dreaming is so universal, and everyone dreams, and each of us has this nocturnal hallucinations basically every night. So we know that dreams do exist. We know we speak of them. We share them. So can we consider dreams as data? That's the, let's say, the most important question. So the present situation in dream studies can tell us yes, right? So from the perspective of data, we can say yes, the dreams are downloadable, can be downloadable. From the perspective of experience, no, but that stands for every other experience as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be just dreams. So sleep and dream database, for example, is one of the most let's say one of the biggest, if not the biggest, data repository of dreams available online, that is directed by Kelly Bulkley, as mentioned earlier. And in this database, we can actually see thousands and thousands of dream reports that we can read. They are in the form of in the form of text, and you know, with quite basic text tools, computational tools, we can already see particular patterns. So as for the texts, yes, dreams can be mined just as any other data in a textual format. So this is, for example, one line of research that has been going on for quite some time now, and it will continue to do so. But since we are a bit short with time, let's move further and see what dreams can bring in the future. So we know, right, that dreams are multimodal. So we, first and foremost, we see in dreams. That's why in so many languages there is a phrase, not that you had a dream, but you were seeing a dream. So the visual component is quite dominant in dreams. And then of course we have emotional layers. We also hear in dreams, sometimes we smell in dreams, but we can easily say, you know, without any doubt that dreams are multimodal, right? And also, as mentioned earlier, dreams are in most cases, I'm saying in most cases, perceived from the first person perspective, which kind of, you know, it reminds us of virtual reality as such, right? In virtual reality, we also have this first person perspective, and we also build worlds that are a bit, reminds us, they remind us of hallucinations. So a couple of years ago, we have already played with this idea, right? How to, we actually put together at the UCLA let's say a list or a diagram of what would be the potential features of dreams once we would be immersed into virtual reality, so, or virtual environment. And I'm not talking about real-time thing, I'm talking about replaying your dream. So the first condition that needs to be met is that you clearly remember your dream. And then once you enter the virtual environment, you can actually start playing with different visual components and start basically to replay your own dreams. So we do have characters, we do have setting, right? We can convey our thoughts again with words. So there are many different components, right, that we could potentially use in the VR. I'm not saying the technology has been developed so far, but the conceptual idea, the conceptual platform, let's say, or is here already, has been here for the past few years. So in the future, it's mostly just a matter of goodwill and some substantial funding to start developing this idea into some sort of reality, virtual one. But let's go back a little bit and discuss also, you know, the dangers and the benefits as well, right? So we know that dreams are something, let's say the dream data is really, really sensitive data. That is one thing, right? If it's, as Freud would say, an unguarded view to someone's soul or mind, then this should particularly be the case, as also seen in the movie, right? So we cannot claim that the data as such is way more sensitive than any other data, but at the same time, we just need to be really careful when we're studying dreams. So there are many reasons for that, but just like with any other technology, it all boils down to means, and it all boils down to the right purpose. But for example, if we would continue our research in dreams in the virtual world, what would be, let's first discuss the benefits, right? So the purpose would clearly be the psychotherapeutic, right? The treatment of reoccurring dreams would be something that you can really replay, pause and zoom and replay if you like. So this is something that would probably work best for, you know, patients with PTSD and so on and so forth. So the patient in that case is not isolated in their dream experience. That is one thing that hasn't been considered before. And also we would be able to analyze dreams in much more multimodal way than just than in, let's say, conventional settings. And also we can kind of, you know, with guided therapists, the dreamer can be exposed to dream content and eventually can manipulate with that content with the purpose of kind of getting through the trauma or getting through the most disturbing part of the dream content. So there are many, let's say, positive aspects, and in, let's say, for the past year has kind of proved that pandemic world also means a lot of remote work, and we have witnessed that many therapists in VR have basically benefited from that, let's say, peculiar year of so many different events in social, economic, and also psychological way. So the question is just the matter of, things are matter of time. So the VR will most likely find its way also to dreams. Now the question is, what kind of a way would that be? And if there will be any particular ethical standards that should be considered. So what is the most, let's say, what would be the most dangerous thing that could happen to dream data? And I would clearly that would be the commodification of dreams, right? So we would always be facing a profit-driven principle versus personal well-being, right? And my personal question has always been, can these two principles coexist? That is something that should be worth considering before continuing with any sort of research in that direction. And of course, that kind of boils down to the value system, right? So what is it that we are trying to do? Are we mining dreams just out of scientific curiosity, or are we mining dreams to get the data just as any other data? So there are many safe checks that should be considered, and abusive purposes should be, something that should be prevented before they actually happen. And I would say that safe checks should actually be embedded in the code. So as mentioned earlier, the tipping point to the doom and to the, let's say, dystopia of dream research would be when dream data becomes a resource or an asset, right? Which kind of reminds me of Claire when she says, and quite intuitively she was right. She says, we don't have the right. Right? In that case, they didn't have the right to mine the dream. They didn't have the right to kind of download it and replay it and look someone else's dreams and so on and so forth. So as much as these technologies are exciting, we should also employ a humanist approach to it, an ethical approach to it, and be really, really careful with the purpose of mining for such data. So let me conclude with the current project that has started basically 2 months ago. So Kelly Bulkley and I started a 2020 Dreams project, which is under the Stanford University Press contract at this moment. It's one of the first born digital projects that will actually be exploring the link between dreams that happened to various people in the last year, mostly the US population. We will explore the connection between dream reports and waking life events, mostly news events. So the research goal is basically to explore those connections and also to cultivate our relationship with our dreaming self. So it's not just something that should be interesting for science as such, but also for the people, for avid dreamers, or just people who are basically interested in dreams on any kind of general level. And we've been lucky enough to got a permission from thousands of people who gathered their reports and allowed us to explore those dreams. And one interesting layer that we would like to also explore is the emotional experience of those dreams. So there are already available various tools that we can apply. And what we would like to see is how dreams are reflected on a massive social, economic, and also ecological shift that happened last year, right? So this is really something that we would like to explore further it's the idea, and the research goal is basically is based on the so-called continuity hypothesis, which claims that there are certain relations between dreaming mind and waking life, or dreaming mind and waking mind, and we would like to quantify it and explore it and visualize it in a way that each user could be able to enter into the project, because it will be digital, and explore it for themselves as well. So the entire thing will be curated in such a way that everyone interested in dreams could actually go and explore it, like a museum of dreams and events that happened last year. So if anyone of you is interested in sharing their dream, you can contact me or Kelly Baltley. But yeah, what we can definitely assure you is that dreams are, in a way, should be safe, are safe with this type of research. So I think I kind of exceeded, didn't I? I don't know how am I doing on time, but I guess that would be my 10-15 minutes.
I think we're doing great. Thank you, Maja. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you now. So I will conclude now my talk with this brilliant mind, Carl Gustav Jung, who says that the conscious mind allows itself to be trained like a parrot, but the unconscious does not, which is why St. Augustine thanked God for not making him responsible for his dreams, right? So in a way, the dreams are also a true mirror of our mind or psyche, or we can also say soul. But if we are not responsible during the night, we can at least be responsible for dreams during the day, particularly in the research. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Maja. So at this point, I wanted to ask the audience if you have any questions for Dr. Gutman. Yes?
Yeah.
I'll repeat it, so
Okay.
just so that we can.
My step uncle was talking to my stepfather one time, and he told him that asked him, and he does this. He'll basically kind of remember where his dream left off one night, and he can continue it on to the next night.
Oh, so we have an audience member talking about basically like a dream cliffhanger, where he has a relative who dreams a dream, and then it stops at a certain point, and then the next day he can pick up where it left off, right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Have you ever heard of this?
Yeah.
Well, usually it happens during the night. I haven't heard of actually being able to continue the next night, but usually it can happen. Sometimes it can happen if, for example, in sleep laboratories, the subjects would be waken up every 20 minutes or half an hour, because that is the perfect way to remember your dreams, and you can record many dreams in one night if you have interruptions during sleep. So sometimes it also happens that you dream of something, then you are interrupted, but you wake up and you are able to go back to bed and continue with the same content and just continue with the, let's say, dream plot. But I haven't heard of this dream sequel. It's interesting, and I would like to hear more.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a couple more.
Sure.
Dreams being downloadable, how do we quantify how much memory a particular dream occupies?
Oh, with dream. Go. Can you hear that okay?
No. Sorry.
Okay, so the question was, if dreams are downloadable, how is there a way to like quantify the space that it takes up, like a very detailed dream?
in a sense of quantify the space on computer, or what? I'm not sure if I understood the question.
Yeah, so it would be the question is about is there a way to quantify the amount of space that a dream might take up?
Oh, the amount of space in the night, or
Computer, like computer memory.
On a computer, like computer memory.
oh, okay. Well, that really depends on the type of format that we are using, right? So if you're using text, then clearly it should not take a lot of space on your hard drive. Whereas with virtual reality, things are a bit different. We actually had a chance a couple of years ago to run a little experiment and recorded a dream of mine in the VR. So I actually talked to the designer, told her about my dreams, and she recreated that dream in the VR. And I couldn't be able to tell how much space did it take, but every time I wanted to send the file, it took a while. So every time we talk about rendering and images and videos, yes, you need a lot of space on your computer. You need a supercomputer.
Okay, we have another one.
Sure.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you. To what degree can dreams be a foreshadowing of destiny?
Oh, you were kind of breaking up on me, so I wasn't able to hear the entire question.
Okay, I can repeat it here.
Sure.
To what degree can dreams be a foreshadowing of our destiny?
Oh, well, that's a tough one, because from scientific perspective, it's really, really hard to claim anything. But Kelly Bulkley was writing extensively on that. We humans actually have, let's say, two types of dreams, and a large percentage of those are quite mundane dreams, banal, let's say. They are just snippets and bits of stories that happen during the day, and that kind of brain more or less seemingly randomly picks it up and kind of replays it. And then are also the so-called big dreams that are kind of don't necessarily happen to everyone, but when they happen, you do remember them. So are we able to foresee the future through dreams? Really, really hard to say, really hard to say. But if you ask Jung or anyone who has been dealing with dreams for a quite long time, they will say, yes, dreams do have patterns. Dreams do exhibit certain content. So I wouldn't necessarily claim that you can see the future, but for sure, dreams are not random.
Okay, and another question. This one is from me actually, and I wanted to know, as someone who has devoted years of your life to studying dreams, and thank you for presenting your research in connection to this particular film. But are there any other films that sort of deal with like the world of dreams that you find fascinating?
So probably the groundbreaking was Inception. That was kind of the one that really stood out. But right now, from the top of my head, I could say that this one really meant something in terms of, let's say, science or dream research. Let's say not just science, but dream research as well. So I would say Inception. Others didn't really kind of. I don't. At this point, I cannot remember any of more relevant or yeah, no, just I would say this one. And
Thank
there
you.
was also
Are there any other questions for anyone else in the audience at this point? Yes.
Did you ever see Waking Life?
Waking Life from Richard Linklater. Have you heard of this film, Waking Life?
No.
They talk about.
It's a reference. It's a movie about dreams.
Thank you. Anyone? Did you have your hand up? Yes. Oh, so hallucinogenic drugs. Right. Oh, that's a great question. So the question was about the relationship between hallucinogenic drugs and dreaming. Is that something that you've encountered?
Well, it's not exactly my line of research, but the fact is that dreams are in effect defined as hallucinations, right? So the connections between hallucinating mind and dreaming mind are remarkable. But are there any causal links between, I don't know, habit or recreational users of drugs and dreaming? There are studies, and there's a large body of research done in that field. But I have not been following that part. All I can say is that whenever I talk to people, and it happened to me often that people who were cannabis users would not remember their dreams. Now, I'm not saying probably there must be science behind it, but it's just an observation that I kind of, it sticks with me every time when people mention this, and then it's an interesting observation. So
thank you. And did you have a question, sir?
Sure. I was kind of wondering about the connection between movies and how that can influence our dreams. Sometimes I'll have a dream where it just seems almost kind of more cinematic. I'm just curious about, like, in that circumstance with my brain actually would be trying to make a movie, or interpreting the content of the dream.
Yeah, that's a cool question. So the idea is, sorry, the question is about, I guess, the cinematic quality of movies, and if there's a connection there. Is he just making up a movie that he's writing, directing, and starring in?
So the cinematic the connection between cinema and dreams, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, there is. So first and foremost, I would say I would start with the biggest difference. So the major difference is that, but that doesn't stand for cinema, not in general, but that it's the storytelling, right? Dreams are very, I would say, postmodern. Dreams are very much of, sometimes in many cases, they're just immune to any type of storytelling, or the story is so confused that you cannot make meaning out of it when you're trying to interpret your dream through waking life logic. So that is one thing. So usually I would use the analogy that dreams are like switching through different TV channels, and just there's random stuff going on. But there is a colleague of mine who is basically exploring the relationship between cinema and dreams. Her name is Linda Kontz, and she is basically doing the same question that you asked is actually her research topic. And she's trying to kind of prove that cinematic form and dreams are interrelated, and they do influence each other. So it's not just the causal link, but it's more like a circular thing going on. And there are, many references in her dream data from the movies, and people, of course, do dream about characters from the movies, and they do dream about also about characters from waking life. But of course, all those characters somehow get different features, which is quite specific for dreams, right? It happens, for example, many times you dream of someone who that is that particular person, but has different features. And that's what also that happens with characters from the movies as well. So yes, Linda.
Great, thank you. So another question that I have after viewing of the film, a significant portion of it, I would say, deals with this idea that the characters have become like addicted and obsessed with sort of dwelling and analyzing and trying to interpret their dreams. I don't remember. Did you have that on your slide for the threats? I noticed that you had like privacy concerns and things like that. But what about the dangers of becoming obsessed with your own self-analysis through these like postmodern pictures of yourself?
Yeah, I was thinking of that when I watched the movie, because they really kind of in one segment it's called the disease of images, something like that, and clearly it becomes a psychotic state, right? This is a very, very interesting and quite complex question. So, because what we know for sure is that we need to dream in order to function in daily life, that's for sure. So if we don't dream, then we become, I wouldn't say psychotic, but the brain is designed for dreaming as well, not just for waking life sort of thinking. So is it possible to get high on your own dreams? I would say that it most likely should be then linked to any sort of depression, because in a state of depression, you kind of go to your internal world and you don't have any tendency to leave it, and that's kind of what happened to them, although that this was much more addictive. So I would say that probably users would get addicted to metrics or self-measurement, like they can get addicted when they're using their let's say different applications for running or any sorts of other sports, and you can easily get obsessed with self-measurement. And this might also happen in this case when you are looking obsessively for some patterns, or you're trying to discover something that probably it's not a big deal. So I would say it's always possible. The addiction has many forms and many faces, but most likely you would get addicted with the self-quantifying functionalities of application, for example.
Thank you, Dr. Gutman. Anyone else have any other questions? All right, with that, what time is it in Switzerland currently?
So it's 3:10. So probably, yeah, at that time I would probably already be dreaming.
Okay, thank you so much. And with that, we'll let you go to sleep. You can dream of downtown Santa Ana, beautiful California, until we see you again.
Wow. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to thank the audience, and thank you, Logan. Thank you, Atalia, and have a great day.
Thank you, girl. Thank you, girl. I love you till the end of